I always say that somatics, it's the language of the nervous system. And it's a language that many of us were never taught to speak. We never learned it. You don't learn how to listen to your emotions and sensations when you're in middle school, grade school, high school. We were never taught that. So in a lot of ways, there's a learning curve in understanding the language.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right, Be It Babe, I'm so excited to have you here for this episode. I'm obsessed with the woman we're about to listen to. She's been on the show before. We are going to talk about somatics, and relationships and love, and how we respond to things in our lives. Side note, it's how you're going to respond to everything, whether it's relationships, business, money, like a little sneak peek. But I think this is a really important episode for you to listen to, because being it till you see it is going to require us to get us outside of our comfort zone, to do things that are different, and our bodies are going to respond to those differences, to being outside of our comfort zone. And those responses are actually going to let you know how you're feeling, how you're reacting to something. And we need to know how to manage that and understand that so that we can do all the things we're supposed to do on this planet. You are the most amazing person. You're the only person who can do what you do the way that you do it. And so understanding how your body is reacting to things is actually going to be a superpower that you will need in all things in your life. So without further ado, here is Lauren Zoeller. Oh my God. This is so fun. Okay. This is also the strangest. I'm going to leave this all in. You guys, we're doing the Be It Pod in real life with one of my dearest best friends I absolutely adore. She's been on the Be It Pod before. Lauren Zoeller, you're here. Can you tell everyone who you are and what you rock at in case they haven't heard your first episode?
Oh my gosh, what do I rock at? So I'm a somatic dating and relationship expert. And first off, I'm just so excited that we're getting to do this in real life.
I know. This is so fun. Maybe we should have done this. Got excited about doing this before, but it's really fun.
Yeah, it is fun. So I am a somatic dating and relationship expert. I help both men and women really heal their relational trauma so that they can find healthy partnership. So I kind of geek out on relationships, but I do it through the lens of the nervous system, which a lot of people are used to traditional talk therapy.
Yeah.
And I really get into the body and work with the nervous system so that you can heal some of these relational patterns that feel like they're the patterns that you just can't seem to get over when it comes to relationships.
Yes, you mean like you date the same person over and over again, expecting it to go better.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you get in the same relationship dynamics and you find yourself sabotaging in the same way over and over. Maybe you find someone that's really healthy, but it feels boring. And so you just
we all remember that episode with Carrie.
Yes, exactly. So you keep imploding these relationships that could be really good for you. So it shows up in different ways. And also it's more than just romantic relationships too. It's like we have a relationship to money. We have a relationship to ourselves, to our health. And so how we do one thing is how we do everything. And it's all based in whether you feel safe or whether you're in survival in your nervous system. So it's looking at that and regulating it.
Yeah, I love this. I know in the first time I had you on, you kind of explained the difference between like what somatic work can look like. Just in case anyone hasn't, can we get like a little 101 definition of it so everyone's on the same page?
So somatic work it's therapy of the nervous system. So most people, when they go to traditional talk therapy, or even if they work with a mindset coach, they're looking at cognitively, how can I put patterns together and try to shift what my mind thinks about when it's triggered or when it experiences something traumatic. What somatic work does is it looks at where did your body go into a survival response when it experienced something that was too fast, too much, or too soon to properly get to safety. And these responses, they get stuck. They get stuck in your body. If you don't look at them and you don't regulate them, then you're going to continue to trip over the same wire and you're going to feel it in your nervous system. So an example of this, right? And I kind of like to give my own example here. My go-to in relationships was alcoholics. I loved them because they were projects. And I felt like if I could save them, if I could lead them to coming home to themselves and getting sober, then I would be worthy of love, right? I learned that at a very young age because I grew up in a whole long line of Polish women. My mom taught me that you don't get to sit down and eat your dinner until everyone in the room has eaten first. So I was taught that my happiness was dependent on other people being happy first. And this survival response that my happiness was dependent on other people, it was alive in my nervous system because that's the only thing that was familiar. It was the only thing I learned. So fast forward to becoming an adult, I then just started to continue to attract these types of men that reiterated that survival response because it felt familiar. So somatic work taught me to go into my body, recognize that survival response, and get it to safety so that I could break that survival pattern.
So then you actually can make changes to things. Whereas not that talk therapy can't do that, but I feel like it's longer or you're kind of having to do things as it's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I had been in talk therapy for almost 10 years. Like I had a whole team of therapists and mindset coaches. I had spent almost 6 figures in trying to break these cycles. But when we talk about our trauma, we are actually re-traumatizing ourselves in a lot of ways because we're not getting to what actually happened in the body when that survival response first set in. And most of the time it's generational when we look at relationships. So it's just looking at trauma in a different way. It's a whole body approach versus just hanging out in the brain.
So as far as like how the body's responding, can you give us some examples? Because I do think that I'm like thinking about some of my like perfectionist overachievers who are amazing, but also like not always as in tune with how their body is interpreting things. Like what are some of those things they're feeling? Because I remember I had an amazing therapist. She did somatics and she always go, where are you feeling that? I'm like, where should I feel it? Yeah. Where should I feel it? I feel it there.
Yeah. So if I heard that, I would be like, this is very much a freeze response. So you may not be able, it could be 2 things, right? You are either frozen and you have no sensation whatsoever. You feel kind of flighty or you feel disassociated. We've all been in that space where we know we need to do something, right? Like we have this crazy long list as an entrepreneur of all these things that we need to check off. And what do we end up doing? We end up scrolling on social media and we don't get to any of it. That is a sign of disassociation. That is a sign of freeze in the system. And so until you start to look at and know those survival responses, because there's 4 of them. There's fight, which is how it sounds. There's flight, which again is how it sounds. Freeze, which is what I just described. And then there's fawn, which is people pleasing. It's shutting down your voice. And let's say you're on a sales call and you know what you're worth.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're like giving away the house.
Yeah.
Right? Because you feel like I need to be accepted. I just need this person to work with me. That's a survival response. So it's like looking at those different responses in the system and getting curious about them.
This is really cool. I love the way you're describing this because again, as I'm like, oh, I just need to have the right answer. So what's the right, what's the right answer for you? I feel like it's an easier way to kind of understand, oh, right now I want to run away. Okay, so that is a survival response. And so with talk therapy be like, why do I want to run away? And somatics would be like, where am I feeling running away in my body? Is that how we're?
Yep. Yeah. So talk therapy would be, okay, where did this pattern come from? How can I connect it cognitively to something that I experienced in the past? Yeah. I get it. Working in the body through somatics would be, okay, what are the sensations and the emotions that are associated with me wanting to run away? And can I be with that? And as a somatic practitioner, I'm then allowing my clients to be with that sensation and we give it space to renegotiate in the body. So the next time that you come up to an event that's similar to the one you want to run away from, your body goes, oh, I'm actually not in threat right now. I don't have to run away. I can stay here because I feel safe. And that's what somatic experiencing does, is it renegotiates those survival responses.
I think this sounds so awesome because it gives people part of their life back and it allows people to have new experiences in even same relationships. Cause I do feel like not that I want anyone to like renegotiate a bad relationship that they're in, but if you have like something with your parents and they're still alive, you actually don't have to continue to repeat the same behaviors because you can change how your body is going to feel in those situations.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gives people hope, because I can't tell you how many leaders I have worked with, and really just women that come in through, my programs, that they're frustrated. They're like, gosh, I've been in therapy. I've been doing all the things that I people tell me I need to be doing, but yet I can't seem to move the needle here. And I never wanted to be like my mom. I never wanted to be like my dad, but here I am as an adult.
Both of them.
Yeah. And I'm just like my parents, and I don't understand why and how this happened. And looking at your relationships from the lens of somatics gives you a very clear picture as to why it's happening. Because it's the only thing you ever learned in your body. It's what feels safe, even though it's a false sense of safety.
Yeah. You got into this because of your own experience, and you have now helped so many women. What are you looking forward to helping people with now? And how are you kind of working your business to do that? Because I know that you've helped so many. What's the next step?
Yeah. So I do have a book coming out next year.
Stop.
It's really exciting. I know. I'm so excited about it. So hopefully that will reach more people and get this work into more hands, because I feel like, I just own it. It's expensive to work with me long-term. But I also have this really big mission on my heart that I want to get this work into as many hands as possible. So hopefully the book will be able to do that. But I really like to say that if you are struggling in relationship to anything in your life, that's where you would come and absorb the work that I teach.
Yeah.
So really for next year, I have the book, and I'm getting ready to launch a membership, a really affordable membership, so you can get your hands on some of this work. So that's what's coming in the future.
I think that's really exciting, because I think when you have the tools and you have these keys and you can see how it's affected your own life, but then also the women that you're working with, it is how do I get this to help more people, but also not water it down? And sometimes it's just exposure. I think, especially if you're going, I'm 41, right? So anyone who's listening, a lot of them are in their 40s and 50s. You get to a point, it's almost kind of is it too late for me? I feel like I should have done this a lot sooner. And so I think it's really cool that you could have different ways of people becoming aware. Because I don't actually think that many people, a lot more people are talking about somatics, and maybe that's just because my algorithm is showing me that. But I don't think as many people are aware of this work. And so sometimes it's just getting them into awareness for them to have that impact.
Yeah. I always say that somatics, it's the language of the nervous system. And it's a language that many of us were never taught to speak. We never learned it. You don't learn how to listen to your emotions and sensations when you're in middle school, grade school, high school. We were never taught that. So in a lot of ways, there's a learning curve in understanding the language. And it's just learning to speak Mandarin or Chinese or any other language. You're not going to just show up to your first class and be able to speak, speak Mandarin fluently. You're going to have to learn the alphabet and the phrases and put things together. Your nervous system is the same way. It is a language. And so my hope with the book is that it's called The Missing Language of Love. And my hope is that people can have access to this language, because most people don't have it.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. I want to go into you talked about the missing language of love. And earlier you said it's relationship to anything. So you're known a lot for relationships with love and as a partner.
Yeah.
But is that the only love that this book is towards, or is for any kind of love?
It's for the love of everything, right? So, because again, once you know the language of your nervous system, you can shift the way that you relate to anything in your life. And so a lot of people that I work with, even though they come in for relationships and dating, they're struggling in their romantic relationships. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So if they're struggling and they have patterns showing up in their romantic relationships, they're also struggling in that same vein when it comes to their relationship to money. They're usually the same patterns. So this book will teach you. It's a roadmap. So there are a lot of exercises within the book, and you can use it. I tell people, go through it for your romantic relationships, and then go back and go through it and look at your relationship to money, your relationship to your health. It is a roadmap that you can use for all of it.
Okay, I love this. So you guys probably heard the episode already with Nick Hutchison, and he has a book called The Rise of the Reader. And his book teaches you how to absorb more from what you are reading. He's a big self-development book person. And he said that he puts on a Post-it note on the inside cover, like what his intention for the book is. So you guys can just take that lesson and just apply it to this. It's like, okay, my intention first is romantic relationships. And then now I'm rereading it for money. And he says, every time you open the book, reread the intention so you can keep that. That's how he absorbs more. So I'm just like connecting two episodes, you guys, because I just think that that's how I would want to go through the book, is like with one idea at a time. So my overachievers, you can't do 3 ideas at the same time. That's
It won't work. It won't work.
Can you tell me, what if we don't work on our notices? Like what happens to us? What does our future look like if we just decide not to?
It's very dark. And no, it's not. I mean, you're going to be fine.
It's the worst
right?
in the world.
But you just have to have a moment where you say, okay, do I want a different reality for myself? Period. And every person that I know that has not done somatic work, they're kind of living in the same dynamic that their parents had. And so I'm not saying that that is always going to be the case, but if you don't look at your healing from the lens of your nervous system, you're only attacking 20% of the healing puzzle. Like the cognitive piece is important to go through talk therapy and to talk about your problems. You need to make that link cognitively, but it's 20%. If you think about from your neck down to your toes, that's like 80% of your body. So, and most people don't ever look at that. So again, yeah, maybe you're going to talk therapy, maybe you're talking through your problems, but you're really only addressing 20% of the healing puzzle when you do that. So you're going to stay stuck where you are. You may have a little bit of change, but you're going to revert back to your old patterns.
Yeah. Do you find once you know this language and once you've done work on it and understanding it, is this something that you can continue to work through with yourself? Can you like work through yourself, or do you have someone you like, I'm just wondering like what's the process of someone who's going through, learns the work, learns the language, and then like stuff happens. Like, you don't just like, it's not like just like life's squeaky clean.
Yeah. It's funny. I interviewed Will Reason on my podcast last week. His episode just came out. I need to connect you to, by the way.
Yeah.
But he was talking about that because he is also a somatic practitioner, and he had done all of this work for so long. I mean, he studied with shamans in Peru, and his mother was a therapist, and he kind of like surrounded himself with all of these personal development tools. And it wasn't until really late in his career that he found somatic work. And he said, after I was facilitated enough and I really I had somebody else guide me into the language of my nervous system, I can now walk myself through this. And so I tell all of my clients, my goal is for you to not need me anymore. And I think that we've built this really deep codependency in the personal development world. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy to need a coach for the rest of your life. It's not healthy to need a therapist for the rest of your life. We aren't conditioned to believe that. And I mean, from a business perspective, it's a really awful business model for someone to not need me, right? But the truth is that you shouldn't need a therapist for the rest of your life. You shouldn't really need a coach for the rest of your life, or else they're not doing their job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a podcast I listen to called A Little Bit Culty, and they say like, imagine if you went to college and they just never let you graduate. Like that would never be okay. Like anyone you work with, there should be a point at which you've graduated. Otherwise, maybe it's a little bit culty.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to normalize that, because I think the personal development world has become so, you need to be in it forever and ever and ever, and you never get to leave.
And also like, how is that at all abundance mindset, which is what the personal development world preaches. It's like, you have to have abundance mindset. Well, if you did as the coach, you would be okay with people graduating, and you would trust that there'd be more people coming through. So I really love hearing that the goal is like you learn these tools to a point that you can actually use them on your own. And you're not so reliant on other people. And I do think it's true, because like I have people in my life who are raised to be in this codependent relationships, and like they have therapists, which is really great, but they just develop another codependent relationship,
Yeah. It's funny. I was on a call with a client yesterday, and she was speaking about this very same thing. She grew up in a household where her mother went to Codependent Anonymous. And next thing you know, she was like, my mom was in AA. My mom was an alcoholic, but she was going to AA meetings, and she was going to like Eaters Anonymous meetings. She was just conditioned to have this codependency. And so I really want to talk about that, right? And put it out into the world because I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about how bad it is.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked like offline about, it's very interesting. I get really disenchanted sometimes with what we do because I'll go to a conference, I'll go and hear different speakers, or I'll be on the same stage as different speakers. I'm like, what are they what are they saying? Like, you're making people find more things with them, or you're making them think that they need all these things. There is not actually a template out there for any business that's going to always work for everyone all of the time, because the truth is that we're all very unique individuals and we have different ways of responding to obstacles in our way that, like, even if you did everything the exact same way, it still wouldn't be the exact same result because we're coming up with different strengths, different weaknesses, different ways of seeing things. And I do think that it can be really scary and sometimes dark in the self-development world. Obviously we don't want everyone to work with you, but what are some like signs, or do you have anything that you kind of like use to make sure that you don't end up working with or studying with anyone in the self-development world that could maybe like a red flags of like, this might not be a good program?
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing for me, if someone comes to let's say a discovery call with me or someone on my team, and they're already in defensive mode. They're like they don't think that this is going to work. They've tried everything. I'll just tell them, I don't think that this I don't think it's the right time for you to be here. Like, that's a big one. But also when people come to me and they talk about, well, is this going to heal me? Like, am I going to be healed when I'm done with this? I'm like, that's a big red flag.
Right.
Because nothing and no one can heal you. Healing is a lifelong journey, but the best thing that you can do is equip yourself with the right tools to be able to facilitate yourself through whatever you need. So that's a big red flag for me, is when somebody shows up and they're like, or when someone says, this work healed me, right? Because there's so many different factors in order for that to be true.
Yeah. I love that what you're saying. It's like this goes both ways. Someone who's coming as a client wanting these, like this has to work, that kind of almost desperation.
Yeah.
It's like, this is probably even like our business coaching for fitness instructors. People are coming like, I need this to work. And I'm like, so here's the deal. Like, I can't make the business decisions daily for you. I'm not in the business. I'm not writing you have to do all the work.
Yeah.
So it will work if you do all the work, but is it going to work tomorrow? Is it going to work yesterday? That's not true. If you're all out there interviewing different people to work with, they should be honest with you, and they should be saying, this isn't the right thing for you, or here's what is possible, but here's how long it could take. Like, there has to be honesty there. And if it's not transparent, or they're just telling what you want to hear, like, those are
big red flags.
Big red flags. Yeah.
Well, and also, and this is just a point of curiosity for people to think about, the need for something to work and for it to work right now, that is a trauma response. And so you have to start to get curious around that, because that is flight in action. That's what it looks like. You're in this space of feeling like it needs to be urgent. And really, trauma is urgency. It's urgency of needing things now. Because when we look at the definition of trauma, it is something that happened too fast, too much, too soon. It is in that space of urgency. So things happen, and you and I have talked about this, like the instant gratification and the instant overnight success that's very much in the personal development world can cause a whole myriad of trauma.
Yeah.
And really, the things that are meant to be savored in life and that are really beautiful and make your life robust are the ones where you slow down and you were able to build it from a space of true presence and being grounded. And so if you aren't there and you're constantly wanting immediate results, that is a sign that you were in trauma and you need to work through that.
It's so interesting. I could be having a trauma response in my business. That's not necessarily the trauma wasn't from business. It could be from something else in my life. And that's how it's showing
Manifesting there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a relationship. You have a relationship to your business. So you have to look at how are you showing up in that relationship, and what from the past has led you to this place where you feel like, oh my gosh, I need instant results right now, or the house is going to catch on fire.
See, I think that's fascinating, because I do think I had Dr. Bender on many years ago, and you guys will put her second episode in the show notes, but she talked about, we tend to, as humans, try to make a reason to the stress we're feeling. So I'm having this, like, I need instant gratification. So we're trying to figure out the reason for that in the head, right? A cognitive reason. And she gave the example of, like, whenever I walk into office, I get super, super stressed out. And so it's my job that's causing this. And she's always like, try not to create reason, because what you logically will connect might not actually be the thing that it is. And you could totally switch a career and actually have the exact same feelings because it's a trauma response. It has to do something else. And we have to do the somatic work
to regulate it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's important to note too that the nervous system, again, it doesn't speak in story. So going into story and making meaning about something over and over and living in what I call monkey brain, which are like those constant loops, that is the flight response. That's what it looks like to notice yourself in an actual trauma response. When you have those looping thoughts, like everybody can relate to being broken up with and then laying in bed at night and trying to sleep and your brain won't shut off. And you're like, oh my gosh, well, what if I would have done this? And what if he would have done this different? What would you have these like constant ruminating thoughts.
Replay the conversation in your head
and over.
I should have said this. I should have done this.
Yeah, that is a trauma response. And it's usually linked to you not being chosen at some point in your life. And so you went into reasoning to pacify and to cope with what happened. So if you're not looking at how your body is responding in a moment-to-moment basis, you're going to keep living those loops over and over again. You're going to keep, I call it burning the ships in your business because your brain takes over and kind of sabotages what's actually happening.
Okay, this has been amazing because I feel like fight is an easy one to kind of understand how that response is, but we've gone through real amazing what it looks like for the flight and for the freeze and for the fawn. So this has been so educational. Obviously, we're gonna have to have you back when your book comes out because I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to, we'll have to figure out a way to like make sure our listeners get their hands on it. We're gonna take a brief break. We're gonna find out people can find you, follow you, and work with you. All right, Lauren, where can people find you, follow you, work with you? Where do you like to hang out? Where is your favorite place?
Okay, so you can find me online at my website, laurenzoeller.com. I'm most active on Instagram. So you can find that at Lauren Zoeller on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Lauren Zoeller. And I think that's all the places that I hang out. I do have a podcast, which you're about.
I know.
So you can listen to that.
It's the Align Love podcast.
Okay.
Yes. You guys, you can listen wherever you listen to this one. Just go find it. We'll put it in the show notes, but sometimes that's not easy to go through. So we'll just Google that. I think it's really cool that you have your podcast because I think having this, I think we have to hear it a few different times, a few different ways. So it's great for people to have you in their ears more often.
Yeah.
Okay. You've given us so many amazing bits of information about ourselves, but for our, people who want an action step, what's a bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted step they can take to be it till they see it?
So I would suggest beginning to learn the language of your nervous system and do this by what I like to call a somatic check-in. So if you are a tangible person, get out your phone, try this for a week. Get out your phone, set a timer on your phone to go off every 3 hours. When that timer goes off, all you're going to do, get out your notes on your iPhone or your Android. We were talking about that earlier. Whatever you have, no judgment here. And I want you to document the sensations and the emotions that are present in your body. And then I want you to write down what you were doing when the timer went off. Note, I did not say, I want you to write down your sensations and emotions and tell me why you're feeling them. All I want you to do is document what sensations, what emotions are present, and what you were doing. What this does is it starts to give you the language of where your nervous system is in a moment-to-moment basis. So for instance, if every time your timer goes off, you're sitting down to write an email and you notice that you're sweating and your heart wants to jump out of your chest, you're probably in a flight response when you're sitting down and you're working. And so once you start to understand this language, then you have the language to be able to shift where you need to go from survival to safety, and you can start to take that next step. So awareness, the somatic check-in gives you awareness of the language that you're speaking.
Oh, I love this. You guys, this is such an easy and free. I love a free tool. Lauren, I adore you. I'm so happy that we randomly met by an email introduction.
No.
Because you're just one of the favorite people in my life, and I love getting to see you in real life. This is just so wonderful. You guys, how are you going to use these tips in your life? We want to know. Tag Lauren Zoeller, tag the Be It Pod. Share this with a friend. If you are hearing anything like, oh, my friend people pleases, oh, that's my friend acts like this. All you have to do is actually send the episode to them. You don't actually have to tell them you're in people pleasing mode. You can actually just send it to them and allow them to go on their own amazing journey. So thank you, Lauren. Thank you everyone for listening. And until next time, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Beit Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network. If you want to leave us a message or a question that we might read on another episode, you can text us at +1 310 905 5534 or send a DM on Instagram at beitpod.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is transcribed, produced, and edited by the Epic team at Diseño.co.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all of our content to our website. And finally, to Meredith Root for keeping us all on point and on time.